The third guideline for correct moral reasoning is called Dhamma authority, Dhamma Dipadiya. It requires us to examine whether what we are going to do is in accord with the moral now Dhamma, and to avoid all action that departs from it. It is an affair to man higher moral sense. It is man higher moral sense that separate him from other living beings that are on a lower level of evolution. Thus, necessity, commoners or Dhamma authority are moral strength, hidi, and moral rare, otapa. Where these two are lacking, there is no civilization. Here the Buddha average called them guardian of the word, Loka, Pala, Dhamma. What the three moral guidelines combine to illustrate is the idea that before all perform an action, one should be throughout all its consequences for oneself as well as for others. We find this idea beautifully brought into focus in the Buddhist adherent of his own Rahula. His son Rahula, what do you think, Rahula? What is the purpose of mirror? For the purpose of reflection, brain vessel. So to Rahula, an action with the body should be done after reflection, and action by speech should be done after reflection, and action by mind should be done after repeated reflection. A fitting conclusion to this chapter of the practice of Buddhist moral life, we bind the Buddhist advice on moralists to some Buddhist householders who has no faith in any religious teacher. To these householders, the Buddha recommends the following in Toplechin, influence teaching Apanaka. In a situation where there is no certainty or conviction, the most rational approach for a rational mind person, Vijnana Parisod, is to reflect that even if there is no life after death, a person who lives immorally but like in the life will be controlled by the voice for his moral misbehaviors. On the other hand, there is life after death. He will suffer in the life after as well. This he warned to lose both what if a person leads a morally good life. Even if there is no life after death, he will be pursued by the wise in this very life for his good behavior, and if there is going to be life after death, he will be happy in the next life as well. Thus he is bound to gain both one. This man trust or his in contemplative teaching is that whether one behaves in a particular religion or not, whether one believes in substitution or not, everyone should practice the moral life.
Chapter 9, The Pursuit of Happiness. All living beings, said the Buddha, describe happiness and requires from suffering. Indeed, the pursuit of happiness is what is common to Buddhism, and the other two worldviews from which it is equally arise. It substitutes eternalism, advocates some modification. It is precisely in order to obtain eternal happiness in the distant future. In analyzing materialist advocates sensual indulgence, it is precisely in order to experience happiness in the intermediate now. Yes, which Buddhism means by true happiness, different from how others conceive of it. What the noble one call happiness, others call it suffering. What others call suffering, the noble one have found in to be happiness. In this context, the Buddha said, there are some divine Brahmins and philosophers, Samanas, who call the day the night and night the day. I said there is delusion on them past. What then is happiness? How can we define happiness? Happiness means many things to many people. It is not possible, therefore, to define happiness with metaphysical precision. There are some who argue that which constitutes happiness is internally relative. It depends on people's emotion and attitude. They also maintain that social happiness cannot be properly identified over this issue. Buddhists take a different position. The Buddhist position is that there is a necessity correlation between morality and happiness. That's what is morally good lead to happiness, whereas that which is morally bad lead to unhappiness. The Buddha or what is morally good is skillful kusala, and the Buddhist teaching for what is morally bad is unskillful akusala. According a mind which is possessed functions with the three points or greed, hatred, and delusion, as a mind that is unskillful morally, but a mind that is defined, a mind that is aware, a mind that is in bondage. In other words, a mind that is support. In contrast, a mind that is free from the three functions is a mind that is skillful, morally good, a mind that is pure, a mind that is well, a mind that is free from, in other words, a mind that is happy. Happy, yet the Buddhist argument is that when we have skillful qualifying, we experience mental health, adokat, mental purity, anavajjal, mentally ability, chika, or resolution in happiness, sukha, supaka. If we went to happy, then there are in fact two options before us. One option is to change the nature of the world to conform to our desire. The other option is to change ourselves to be in harmony with the nature of the world. It is the second find more difficult than Buddhism aroused, because the first opinion is simply not possible. How can we be truly happy? How can we experience sustainable happiness? According to the Buddha, it is only when we have a mind under our own control that we can be truly happy. Now, when we come under the control of our own mind, we find this idea clearly articulate in the early Buddhist theory of the cognitive process, which we discussed on our chapter of the analysis of mind. In the cognitive process, which begins with sensory contact and proceeds by rigidity until it reaches the final state called conceptual proportionality, we can identify three states. At the first stage, the I consciousness arises according to the principle or dependent rising. At the second stage, from feelings up to conceptual proportional, the interpreter assumes the role of an agent and decides the cognitive process. At the third stage, the interpreter loses his role as the agent and becomes an object, his own uncontrollable conceptual practicing. If the individual becomes an object of his own uncontrollable conceptual practicing, which it is really means it that he does not have a mind under his own control. He is being controlled by his own mind. If one with to have a mind under one's own control. One should develop mindfulness, sati, and clear communication simultaneously. When one is going forward or coming back, when one is looking ahead or looking aside, when one is drawing in or extending on other limbs, when wearing one clothes, when eating, drinking, crawling, and testing, when investigating and addressing, when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, walking and speaking, and keeping silent. In all these occasions and activities, one should have mindfulness and clear comprehension. To be mindful is not the same as to be self-conscious. When we are self-conscious, we are obsessed with ourselves. We tend to react to situations truthfully instead of responding to them after careful reflection. When we are mindful, our mental and physical efficiency straighten rather than reacting to situations recklessly, we respond to them after proper reflection. It is by letting go that one becomes truly active and creative. What prevents us from experiencing true happiness are greed, hatred, and delusion. They are the three positions that correct our mental and physical health and destroy our happiness. All the three is hatred, no greed, and delusion, which is more position and frustrated. It is the Buddhist position that is my primarily motivated by greed, gives rise to some kind of pleasure, somnasa, and independent upekha, but it never gives rise to displeasure, domination. Greed is due to some kind of attraction to someone or something, judged as pleasant and appealing. In such a situation, the object or connection gives rise to the feelings expression. A mind primarily motivated by illusion always giving rise to some kind of indifference. The reason for this is that a rational mind is not an position or to judge something as pleasant or unpleasant. Therefore, such as mind does not experience either pleasure or displeasure. On the other hand, a mind primarily motivated by hatred always gives rise to displeasure. Domination, hatred arises when someone or something is judged as unpleasant or repulsive. Obviously, in such a situation, the object or connection triggers some kind of displeasure, greed as noted above means the desire to possess an object. The moment that desire is present, it will be immediately followed by a movement of hatred. It is not at the movement of greed, but at the immediately succeeding movement of hatred that one experiences displeasure. What corresponds to greed and hatred are attraction and distraction. Since attraction and distraction are mutually exclusive, they cannot activate is one and the same mind movement. Hatred can run from mind irritability and uncomfortability rage. The so-called righteous anger or moral intelligence is in fact another form of hatred to a very subtle, so it is suggestion remark which ironic intent. Ironic intent. When agreed does possess a man, he loves actually and lies in faith. No being but seek his own self-ordinance requires to hate than himself. Yet me in anger kill themselves, distinguished from reason manifold. For crazy, they still dance with and degrees in disparaging several positions, perhaps high spine from rows or flight dances over a precipice. Yet how their lives destroying at bringing death and truth dancer as well. That the cannot discern and that is the one angle brilliant. The more effective antidote for the poison of hatred is loving kindness. That is how said the Buddha one should develop loving kindness. Just as mother own protect her only child at the risk of her own life. Even so, let one cultivate as let heart of compassion toward all beings. Let one throughout all boundless compassion replace the whole world above, below, across without any obstruction, without any hatred, without any enemy, whether one stand was still or lying down as long as one is awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is the noblest living here. There are 11 blessings, said the Buddha, which one can have by developing loving kindness. One sleeps in comfort, one wakes in comfort, one dreaming no evil dreams, one is rich to human beings, one is dear to non-human beings. The God protects him, no fire, no fire or weapon harms him. One mind can be quickly concentrated. That completion of one face becomes green, one way face does with no matter confusion, and even if one fails to realize the highest goal in this life, one who fasts on death, one or high divinity, Brahmaloka, happiness throughout the full sublime state of divine abode, Brahma Huyara, loving kindness, metta. It is less without the desire to possess, it is less without selecting and exclusion, it is less embracing all living being. Living kindness is not the same as surface affection. Compassion, Karuna, it is compassion or all suffering. Living being, compassion is not the same as equanimity, which is a state of mind accompanied by sorrow. Already joined Mudita, it is the ability to feel happy and joyful at the success of others. It is the sharing of others' happiness as it is what shows. Authorizing joy is the best antidote for the poison of jealousy. Jealousy is the resistance and betterment one experience when others succeed. Equanimity will become it is the purpose and unshakable balance of mind. It is not negative interpreted by a positive social virtue. Equanimity is our ability to remain calm and present when we face the edge precipitate or the edge up and down of life, delight and despair. When a person feels this persistent or life, it is instead of him. Remember when the Dhammaprad say in this connection, O author, indeed there is an ancient practice, no one only ought today, the blame those who remain silent, the blame those who speak much, the blame those who speak in moderation. There is none in this world who is not blamed. There never was, there never will be, nor is there now, a person who is wholly plain, or a person wholly fair. Equanimity does also mean an attitude to emphatically as such as equanimity unable to transfer or division or devices throughout and feeling based on class, caste, race, region, nationality, ethnically, and all for all proclaimers as well as gender distinction. Maintain happiness. Buddhist speaks of two levels of happiness, mundane and supramundane. Mundane happiness is the happiness which one is experiencing until one realizes nirvana. Thus, supramundane happiness, the idea of mundane happiness does not contradict the Buddhist definition of suffering, as we have known. Suffering dukkha is had a psychological connection to me any kinds of condition experience, and experience depending on impermanent condition. Condition experience can be extremely pleasant or extremely unpleasant, which is within condition experience. Therefore, there can be many levels of pleasure and happiness. On the other hand, important perspective to lead a happy life is acquires weight. As a religious teacher, the Buddhist never feared politics as a matter of fact. The Buddha singled out hunger to be the world desire and poverty to be the more sociality distinguishing the pattern. As the Buddha said, the division of this world into the heart, and they have not received the way for the collaboration or the moral foundation of the society. When there is no proper distribution or wealth, properties grows rise. From property growing rise, stealing increase. From the separate or stealing violence and household weapons increasing. From violence and household weapons, destruction of life become common. When destruction of life become common, people's lives span decrease then because decrease. When Buddhist discourse says, if the king of the kingdom were to think, I will get rid this loss on robots by exclusion and imprisonment, by compulsion, death, and brain pan, by suggest me this place will not be, and those who surface on later has that kingdom. There is another plan that is called opposed not to say to those in the kingdom who are in age cultivating cross. They rising categorically, your majesty distributes grain and flood. The truth in trace given capacity to those in government service assign proper living wage. Then those people being intent on their own occupation were not hard in kingdom, yet your majesty rivers will be great, the land will be tranquil and not beset by this, and the people which join in their heart will plead with them, challenge and will draw in open heart. With the two conditions side about combined to show it that the duty of the king is not merely to bless laws and order, but also it develops the economies. In this connection, one Buddhist discourse observes the king provides for the various protection and security of his subjects. Dhamma, Vikas and Karunadasa Sambhavati, but failed to give property to the needs Nasadana analysis the sort property become rare. Property poetry, it may be noted here, has not only objective understand, it has also a psychological dimension as well. Even if a person is very rich in the presence of other who is richer, he will feel poor and comparison. So poetry can be a study on mind as well. It's in this context that we need to understand that when no seeing of the Buddha's contentment is the highest way. Advice to Hausura on how to be happy. One day, a person called Dika Chanuka came to the Buddha and said, Lord, we Hausura are immersed in the realm of pleasure. We are canvas with bad mass and sound. We delight in the music from Venus and its thunderbolt. We teach ourselves with flowers, with colors and cosmetics. We enjoy the usual food, silver and gold. Lord, to suggest as that in extent one also teach the Dhamma, teach that then which will be conducted to our advanced of happiness here on earth and to our advantage and happiness in the world what to come. And before Lord this request, the Buddha referred to four requirements which are contracted to happiness in his life. Accomplishment in effort, Upadana Samra, it is the honest effort need to earn one living. One should be energetic, and or in encouraging or mind and capacity or organizing and carrying out one work systematically and effectively. Accomplishment in production, Ataka Samda. One should see that the ways one has earned in property, cash and protest, good companionship, friendship, Kusliana Samta. One should associate and cultivate friendship with people who are virtuous, faithful, courteous, and wise. The need to lead a balanced life, Samacha Uhika, one should neither be entirely established nor entirely mystery in other living. He should know that his income will stand in Asia or his experience, but not his experience in Asia or his icon. Just as the Quran no or such as to balance by so it has displayed strong, by so much it has tightened at even so. A hospital, knowing his icon and expand, leads in better life, neither established nor materially. He should divide his wealth in four. This way more advantage when one part he may enjoy alone, at weight. Two part he should put toward. The fourth part he should set aside. The rest in day, tea, time and needs. The wealth earned by it also earned can have full success or loss. Loneliness with woman, reaction to intoxicant, drinking, gambling, and association with evil mindset people. There are six, even consciousness is introduction in intoxicant, lose or waste, increase or quarrels subsequently to illness, lose or one cause, need and reputation. Sameness and illness exposed or one body and weakness or one intended. There are evil consequences when one enters in climbing the wanna make enemies that lose balance his loss or lose or waste. His work is not related upon any parcel or loss. He is despaired by this friend and associate, and he is not an remain from marriage for people who say he is a climber. How can he look after his wife? There are evil consequences of being attached to internet. He does not work, saying that it is extremely cold, that is extremely hot, that is too early in the morning, that is too late in the evening, that he is extremely hungry, that he is too full. Happiness throughout family life. Family piety or devotion to parents play an important role in the teaching of the Buddha. Once parents, the Buddha said, are the first teacher, Bhavacharya, the first release, Bhavacharya, Vati or offering, Anujana, the mother and the father are elevate to the level of high divinity, general matter. One's mother is the friend of one's own home. Mata Medaya Seka Karana. If I wish should a child minister to his mother and father. Having been spoiled by them, I will spoil them. I shall perform their duty from them. I shall keep at the family tradition. I shall be worthy of my heritage after my parents' death. I shall offer an all honors of my departed present. There are 5 ways in which the parents so ministered to find their children. We should then compassion to the children, the restrain them from evil, they encourage them to do good, they train them from a proportion, they raise or sustain marriage, and at the proper time, they has over them, irrigates all them. A man's wife, the Buddha said, is his greatest friend. Brahmanas was the marriage between man and woman. Thus become the greatest friendship. There are 5 ways in which a husband should minister to his wife: by being courteous to her, by not despising her, by being pitiful to her, by handing over authority to her, and by providing her with armaments. The wife thus ministered to by her husband, show her compassion to her husband in 5 ways. She performed her duty well. She is hospitable and cautious to ration and attendant. She is pitiful to her husband. She protects what that brings, and she is skilled and industrious in distracting her duty in 5 ways. A household minister to his servant and employee by assigning to them according to their ability, by supplying them with food any with wage, by training them turning them when they are sick, by sharing special tradition with them, and by practicing the living all time to time. the four warning way: generosity, peace, helpfulness to others, empathy to all. At the case of demand, these four warning ways make the world go round. At the expression in a moving card. India is the worst Egypt now. Neither mothers nor father were received respect and honor from their children. These four winning ways, these wives appeared in every week to eminence they attain and present the highly ranked level of happiness. The Buddhas draw our attention to many levels of happiness, regarding from the lowest to the highest, from the greatest or to the more refined. It's a gradual difference and substitution of happiness until it reaches the highest level of happiness. The process begins with sensuous pleasure, karma, sukha, the pleasure that we experience by purifying our fivefold sustainability throughout the five physical sense organs, which is satisfying with the kinds of pleasure that is attendant with feeling of displeasure and notice more and more desire for sensory gratification. This situation is correlated to a leopard which soar and plaster on his land, caressing his body over a burning congregate. He will suddenly enjoy some momentary pleasure by caressing his body throughout. This act will increase the problem rather than cutting it. That comes in gradual subsequent higher level on non-sexual happiness. As for example, the happiness one experience when one unifies and concentrates one mind in higher level of jhana experience. Since the first, then there are many levels of happiness. The Buddha has at his discipline to make a proper evolution of happiness, sukha, etc. The purpose of this evolution is to focus lower level of happiness in order to pursue higher level of happiness. Engrossed in sensual pleasure, the ordinary people think that there is no happiness higher than sensual pleasure, so they are scared to any happiness that goes beyond sensual pleasure. It develops psychological resistance and prevent them from pursuing higher level of non-sensuous happiness, such as happiness. The Buddha said should not be feared, no honor. An important motivating factor of sustaining happiness is the reflection that is better to get at a lower level of happiness. By doing so, one can experience a higher level of happiness. The psychological principle behind this is that one who pursues happiness will suddenly obtain happiness. Sukha, levity. The path to the higher level of happiness is what the belief among some ancient Buddhists during the time of the Buddha that happiness could be realized only through suffering. Even the Buddha to be before his enlightenment accept this before the enlightenment accept this only to realize that the world filled with suffering. He knows and no leading to their goal. Immediately after this realization, this occurred to the Buddha to be, why am I afraid of that happiness that has nothing to do with sensual pleasure and wholesome states? This realization by the Buddha to be is the more momentous occasion in his search for true happiness. Its significance has complete break away from such modification and the flighted associated with spiritual eternalism. Sasana Era, the first discovered by the Buddhas for the realization of Nirvana, is the highest happiness. It's the noble eightfold path. It is said above rise not only from sensual intoxication, but also from self-mortification, which is faithful and indulged. Therefore, the Buddha's path to the highest happiness is certainly not through suffering. It does not impose suffering, frustration, despair, and anguish. Accordingly, the Buddha described the Noble Eightfold Path as a path to be trodden with joy, party, samadhi. The Buddha remained at that it is only when one does not express happiness which accords with the Dhamma that the effort will be fruitful. This shows that in desperation or happiness in order to pursue higher level of happiness as a matter of fact, monks and nuns during the time of the Buddha delightfully pursued and reached light came passionately or Kosala one told the Buddha that he sees Buddhist men and nuns similarly smiling and cheerful, sincerely joyful, playful and delightful, then faculty bright 11 years and find that well in Buddhist non Bodhisattva, recluse and Brahmin who are lean, veggies, and strangely adjusted and with very stunning other than limb or as they were, leading to holy lives in discontent. In the certainly not through suffering, but through happiness that the Buddha granted the truth of suffering. In this connection, the Buddha said, I do not say that the breakthrough or the Four Noble Truth is accompanied by suffering or displeasure rather than breakthrough. The Four Noble Truth is accompanied only by happiness and joy. Throughout happiness to the higher happiness is also the theme or some spontaneous proton ultimates or some alertas and record in this Tragada. They claim happiness has been attained throughout happiness. In the quest for the highest happiness, the exclusive turning point is not fear, but a real contrast with suffering. From the one, the sequence is not one of suffering, but degrees and happiness leading to the higher happiness. We find this idea clearly displayed in what is called the dependent rising, a dependent rising that leads to the transcendence of the world. Desmond Enclosure is the sporting condition for karmic formation. Karma formation are the sporting condition for consciousness. Consciousness is the sporting condition for materiality and materiality. Materiality is the sporting condition for the sevenfold sin base. The sevenfold sin base is the sporting condition for context. Contact is the sporting condition for feeling. Feeling is the sporting condition for craving. Craving is the sporting condition for clinging. Clinging is the sporting condition for existence. Existence is the sporting condition for bad. Bad is the sporting condition for suffering. Suffering is the sporting condition for peace. Peace is the sporting condition for joy. Joy is the sporting condition for Rachel. Rachel is the sporting condition for tranquility. Tranquility is the sporting condition of happiness. Happiness is the sporting condition of concentration. Concentration is the sporting condition for the knowledge and vision as they really are. As they really are, the knowledge and vision of this as they really are is the sporting condition of the discernment. Discernment is the sporting condition of this question. This question is despotic question or emancipation. Why emancipation is despotic question or the knowledge or the dispersion or the kanka. The sequence or condition pattern is compared to the rain descending down on some mountain tops that gradually fall grace and creek for a warm stream and rivers and finally follow around to the great ocean. The rising or highest level of happiness is not a supernatural but a natural occurrence. It is the natural ordained dharmata that the absence or remote is present in a real person. A person who has no feeling or remember needs to determine in his mind that joy should rise in him. It is all the nature thing. The joy rises in a person who has no remote. A person who is joyful needs to know determine in his mind that the light should rise in him as is one nature or then that the light rises in a joyful person. In conclusion, that chapter on the possibility of happiness, we should like to clarify the possibility of happiness in relation to the ultimate goal or position. What exactly is the ultimate goal position? If we go by the Four Noble Truth, the quietness of position, then we know that the ultimate goal of position is cessation of suffering. We come to the same conclusion even if we go by the Buddhist summary statement on the way or and the act of what we have devoted in suffering and the cessation of suffering. Cessation of suffering is another expression of happiness. It is the contrast. The cessation of suffering is the negative expression, then latter remain also that so is immortality which many preachers, including Buddhism, seeing next chapter, claim to be the highest goal or richest life. Happiness is not a means or wisdom, whether wisdom is a means of happiness. Happiness is not means to maintain purity, whether mental purity is a man or happiness. Happiness is not a means to compassionate love, whether is compassionateness is a means to happiness. Why wisdom and mental purity and compassionate sufficient as the means, happiness becomes the goal. This is certainly not to downgrade, but to grasp the importance and emphatically of wisdom, mental purity, and compassionateness. For what this clearly demonstrates is that true sustainable happiness is certainly no possible all unless it is grounded on a proper understanding of the nature of purity, wisdom, on the cultivation to this higher level of mental purity, and on the development to its higher degree of compassionate. It's not the case that wisdom, mental purity, and compassionate love are arise first, and then comes happiness. We need to understand that whole situation not in a theoretically but in a logical sense. It is only in a logical sense that wisdom, mental purity, and compassionate love come first. As a matter of fact, wisdom, mentally purity, compassionate love, and happiness all rise together. Is it together? We find a similar situation in the emancipation of the three universal property, or that which is certainly, namely, permanent, suffering, and non-surplus. Although they are immersed in sequence one after another, that does not mean that they rise in chronically sequence as well. What is important is one's and the same time, suffering as well as non-self. It is only logical that's important in present to the other two, and it is in fact a phenomenon that provides the rational basis for all Buddhist teaching on the nature of equality. Happiness is the only thing we pursue for its own sake. Chapter 10. The early Buddhist teaching on Nirvana had given rise to a wide variety of interpretations. Most of these interpretations relate to the postmodern statue of the Arhata, the one who has realized Nirvana. There seem to be two questions rises over this issue. Is the postmodern statue of the Arhata one of the complete annihilation is a physical sense, or is this one of contextual existence in a metaphysical sense? On our view, both questions do not arise. If they arise, it is to the binary or opposition between spiritual eternalism and materialist annihilation. Nirvana as the third noble truth. The best way to understand what Nirvana is and what it is not is to understand Nirvana in its proper context. In the context of the Four Noble Truths, these truths are present in such a way as to show that Nirvana, which is the third Noble Truth, follows as a logical sequence from the first two, that if there is suffering and if there is a cause of suffering, then it logically follows that the elimination of the cause of suffering leads to the cessation of suffering, which is Nirvana. What is important to remember here is that Nirvana is defined as the cessation of suffering. It is not the cessation of life, jivita, nidota, nor is it the annihilation of an independently existing entity. For Buddhism does not recognize such as entity either to be annihilated in its physical sense or to be perpetuated in its metaphysical sense. When Nirvana is attained, what can to earn is not a set entity, but the force bleeds in such as an entity. It is in this context that we should understand the significance of the following statement of the Buddha. Some Asians and Brahmins assume me wrongly, baselessly, falsely, and groundlessly, saying that the recluse Gautama is a nihilist and preaches the annihilation, destruction, and non-existence of the existent being. This is what I am not and do not affirm. Both previously and now I preach suffering and the cessation of suffering. At this question, should the chair or nihilism was not something new, a privilege even during the time of the Buddha, Nirvana as cessation or passion, aversion, and delusion. In the Pali discourse, Nirvana is defined more in terms of its experiential characteristics rather than in terms of metaphysics. Exploration of the intellectual meaning of the term Nirvana does in fact shed much light on this nature of Nirvana experience. The basic idea conveyed by this term in that all instant question is final evidence. Instant the Buddha is burning with what? Everything is burning with the three fire or passion, ragas, aversion, dosa, and delusion. These fire are the three basic factors or moral evil to which all unwholesome mental disposition and development can be traced. When they are eliminated, all other development came to an end with no possibility of future goal. Here, the final relevant, which is nirvana, came to be defined as the extension of passion, aversion, and delusion. One who has extinguished these three fires can to be ability defined by the metaphor of being cold. Siddha Buddha or precipice Buddha, absent of the three aversion factors should be understood in a positive sense as well. Absent of passion means reason or such as aversion quality as charity, liberality, and renunciation. Absent of aversion means the presence of empty, forward, forbearance, and loving kindness, metta. Lastly, absence of delusion means the presence of higher knowledge, vijnana, and wisdom, jnana. Passion and aversion are the defining epotete factor, where delusion is the defining cognitive factor. Elimination of the two aversion emotate factor gives rise to compassion, while the elimination of the aversion cognitive factor gives rise to